So I'm just going to show you around my new series of work, and I'm calling them Morning Path, because this was sunrise. There's another one of my sunrise. It wasn't a walk, it was a run actually. I went on a run, and this is Dorset, near where my parents live, which is near Puddletown, which is a real place, next to the River Piddle, and it's a winter time run that I went on. It was frosty, it was really cold, and it was beautiful. The sun was rising, and I was running down this path, and sunrise just took my breath away, really. It was catching, the sun just coming over the horizon was catching these bare hedges, the tops of the hedges. I don't know if you know, in England and in Britain, with the bare hedges, sometimes they kind of have this line where they've been cut, they've been lopped at some point, and then these odd little stray branches just start growing up at the top, and those were the ones that the light was catching. So it was beautiful, and I took some photographs while I was running. And I got back to the studio and I made a Drypoint plate. So these actually started off as Drypoint plates. So that's the line work, most of the line work, this hedge here, the path, that's all scratched into a piece of metal and then printed. And as is my wont, I tend to add things in to a print as I put it through the press. So I added in monoprinted tissue paper. So the colour, the background colour of this and the texture, the background texture, like this texture here, is actually monoprinted onto tissue paper. And I do that in my home studio, and it can be, you know, very unplanned, very spontaneous. I'm just making colour and texture, and then I use those pieces of paper and I put them through the press. I sort of stick them onto the etching paper as I put the plate through the press, and you get this effect where the tissue paper is sandwiched between the plate and the etching paper and kind of becomes part of the etching paper, really. You don't really know that it's a collage. And then these have been brought back into the studio, the home studio, and I've added things like these lovely orange marks and the yellow along the horizon. That is what I call monoprint. So that's where I've rolled ink out onto a flat surface, put the paper on top, face down, and then drawn onto the back, pressed down onto the back, and hopefully where you press should pick up the ink. And that's how I've added a little bit more light as well into that horizon. So these four were the first four that I put through the press, my first printing session, and I really love them. Actually, I think they're probably my favourites. And then I did another printing session where I put another four through the press. So these four were the result of my second print session, and I actually made these backgrounds, this blue and the yellow, specifically for these prints. So I monoprinted onto tissue paper with these quite intense colours, knowing that I was going to put them in to these prints, which I don't often do. It's normally more of a spontaneous thing. So these have ended up a bit more intense, a lot more intensity of colour. I also actually scratched a bit more into the Drypoint plate before I printed these. So these are darker here. And I've added this really intense red colour for the sunrise. So I'm really enjoying these. Can't decide whether I like the more intense colour or the softer texture better, but either way, they really remind me of that beautiful day running in the sunrise.